when a journalist mocked Elon Musk at an event. No one expected his calm response to steal the show. The room buzzed with anticipation as hundreds of attendees, from aspiring entrepreneurs to industry titans, settled into their seats. This wasn't just any tech summit. It was the summit, where the sharpest minds in technology, science, and innovation converged to discuss the future. The auditorium, sleek and futuristic, mirrored the ethos of its most famous guest, Elon Musk. Spotlights swept across the stage as the moderator's voice echoed through the hall. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the CEO of SpaceX, Tesla, and Neuralink, Elon Musk." The applause was deafening, with some members of the audience rising to their feet as Musk strode onto the stage. Dressed in his usual understated style, dark jeans, a black t-shirt, and a jacket, he exuded a calm confidence that only added to his enigmatic aura. Elon nodded to the crowd, his expression neutral yet approachable. He had long been a polarizing figure, adored by those who saw him as a visionary genius and criticized by others who labeled him a corporate opportunist. His mere presence seemed to demand attention, and tonight was no exception. Sitting across from him on stage was a journalist renowned for their incisive interviews and unrelenting criticism of big tech. Their reputation as a sharp, no-holds-barred interrogator had earned them both accolades and enemies. Tonight, they seemed particularly eager, leaning forward with their notebook already brimming with questions. The moderator began with a few softballs, touching on Musk's early life and his ambitious goals for Mars colonization. Elon responded with his trademark mix of candor and dry humor, eliciting laughter and applause from the crowd. But the journalist wasn't here for light-hearted banter. They waited patiently, their pen tapping against the edge of their chair, for the right moment to strike. The conversation shifted to Musk's many ventures, Tesla's strides in renewable energy, SpaceX's groundbreaking achievements in space exploration, and Neuralink's promise to revolutionize medicine. Each response from Musk was met with awe, the audience hanging on his every word. But beneath the surface of admiration lay a current of skepticism, one that the journalist was ready to tap into. Finally, the moment arrived. The journalist adjusted their microphone and turned to Musk with a pointed expression. "Mr. Musk," they began, their voice laced with subtle challenge, "you've made a career out of pushing boundaries and pursuing profits through innovation, but there's a growing concern that your focus on profitability comes at the expense of people." A murmur spread through the audience as the journalist continued, their tone sharpening. "Is it fair to say you care more about profits than people?" The room fell silent, the weight of the question pressing down on everyone present. Musk's face betrayed no reaction as he leaned back slightly in his chair, his fingers lightly steepled. The audience leaned in, holding their breath, waiting to see how he would respond. What Musk said next would leave everyone speechless. The question lingered in the air, a challenge wrapped in careful phrasing. The journalist sat poised, their gaze unwavering as they awaited Musk's response. To many in the audience, this moment felt like a long time coming. After all, Musk had become a lightning rod for both admiration and criticism, embodying the duality of modern innovation. A man celebrated for changing the world and scrutinized for how he did it. The journalist, a veteran in their field, had built their career on exposing what they perceived as the darker sides of corporate power. They were known for their sharp critiques of Silicon Valley elites, accusing them of prioritizing profits over ethics, innovation over accountability. Their approach was often provocative, their questions designed to provoke reactions that would make headlines. And tonight, with Elon Musk as their subject, they seemed determined to push him into a corner. Musk, on the other hand, was no stranger to public scrutiny. Over the years, he had been called a genius, a disruptor, a megalomaniac, and even a modern-day Tony Stark. To his supporters, he was the ultimate visionary, someone who dared to dream beyond the constraints of reality. Tesla had revolutionized the electric vehicle market, SpaceX had reignited humanity's ambitions for space exploration, and Neuralink was on the verge of breakthroughs that could redefine medicine. To his critics, however, Musk was a symbol of unchecked ambition, a billionaire whose lofty goals sometimes overshadowed the human cost of achieving them. The question posed by the journalist wasn't new. Variations of it had been asked before, though never in such a public and direct manner. Is it fair to say you care more about profits than people? It was a question designed to provoke, to tap into the underlying unease about the growing power of tech billionaires. For some in the audience, it was a valid concern. For others, it was an unnecessary jab at someone who had arguably done more to advance humanity than most governments combined. As the room waited in silence, the journalist's strategy became clear. By framing the question around profits and people, they sought to paint Musk as a cold, profit-driven industrialist, a man so focused on numbers that he forgot about the lives affected by his decisions. It was a calculated risk, one that could either solidify their reputation as a fearless truth-teller or backfire spectacularly in front of a live audience. But Elon Musk was not an easy man to rattle. Known for his unfiltered thoughts and dry humor, he had a knack for turning criticisms into opportunities to double down on his vision. He rarely reacted defensively. Instead, he leaned into the scrutiny, often using it as a platform to challenge conventional thinking. And tonight, his body language suggested he was doing just that, calculating, waiting, preparing to respond in a way that no one expected. The audience, a mix of tech enthusiasts, entrepreneurs, and industry leaders, was divided. Some nodded subtly in agreement with the journalist's pointed question, their expressions reflecting long-held skepticism about Musk's methods. Others shifted uncomfortably, clearly bristling at what they saw as an unfair attack on someone who had done so much to push humanity forward. The tension in the room was almost palpable, the air thick with anticipation. Outside the auditorium, the world was watching. The tech summit was being live-streamed to millions across the globe, with hashtags like #MuskAtSummit and #ProfitsPeople already trending on social media. Clips of the journalist's question were being shared in real time, accompanied by a flurry of commentary. Some praised the journalist for their courage, while others accused them of grandstanding. Elon Musk is about to expose the journalist's bias. One tweet read, "Wait for it." "This is why we need journalists who hold billionaires accountable," read another. "Profits over people is a serious issue, and Musk isn't above criticism." In the control room backstage, the production team exchanged nervous glances as they monitored the feed. They knew this was the moment the audience had been waiting for, the kind of high-stakes interaction that would dominate headlines for days. One producer whispered to another, "He's going to flip this on them. Just watch." Back on stage, the journalists maintained their composed facade, but a flicker of uncertainty crossed their face. They had dealt with difficult subjects before, but Musk's unpredictability made him a uniquely challenging interviewee. Would he deflect the question with humor? Would he counter with his own accusations? Or would he surprise everyone by addressing it head-on? As the seconds ticked by, Musk remained silent, his expression calm but unreadable. He appeared to be in no rush to answer, his steepled fingers resting lightly on the arm of his chair. The audience leaned forward collectively, their attention glued to the man who had built his career on defying expectations. For Musk, the question wasn't just about defending his reputation. It was an opportunity to reframe the narrative entirely. He understood that public perception was as much about what you said as how you said it, and in this moment, with the world watching, he was determined to deliver a response that would not only disarm his critic, but also leave a lasting impression on everyone in the room. The journalist cleared their throat, breaking the silence. "I think it's a fair question," they said, their voice carrying a hint of impatience. "Your companies are undoubtedly successful, but at what cost? Tesla has faced accusations of poor working conditions. SpaceX has been criticized for environmental impact, and Neuralink raises ethical questions about the intersection of technology and humanity. How do you reconcile these concerns with your pursuit of innovation?" The murmur in the audience grew louder, the weight of the question deepening. Musk finally leaned forward, his hands resting on the edge of the table as he looked directly at the journalist. His lips curved into a faint smile, the kind that suggested he had been waiting for this moment all along. "Well," he began, his voice steady and deliberate. "It's an interesting question, and I think the answer might surprise you." The audience held its breath, the tension in the room reaching its peak as Musk prepared to speak. Whatever he was about to say, one thing was certain: it would leave no one indifferent. Musk's faint smile lingered as he glanced across the room, his gaze sweeping over the audience before settling back on the journalist. The tension was thick, the kind of silence that demanded everyone's full attention. Elon leaned forward slightly, the movement subtle yet commanding, as if to signal that what he was about to say wasn't just an answer, it was a statement. "Well," Musk began, his tone measured and deliberate, "I've heard this question before, and it's always framed the same way, as if profits and people are two completely separate things. But let me ask you this. Without profits, how do you think innovation happens?" The question hung in the air, rhetorical but powerful, and a ripple of murmurs spread through the audience. Musk continued, his voice gaining momentum. "Every electric car we've built at Tesla, every rocket we've launched at SpaceX, every piece of research we've funded at Neuralink, it all requires money, and not just a little money, billions. Without profits, there's no reinvestment. Without reinvestment, there's no progress. And without progress, well, we all stay exactly where we are." The journalist shifted slightly in their seat, their composed demeanor starting to crack under the weight of Musk's logic. They opened their mouth to interject, but Musk raised a hand, his gesture polite but firm. "Let me finish," he said, his voice calm but unwavering. "Do I care about profits? Of course I do," Musk continued, "but not because I want a bigger yacht or a private island. I care about profits because they're the fuel that drives the engine of innovation. They allow us to take risks, to fail, and to try again until we get it right. And let's not forget, every dollar of profit Tesla makes is a dollar we can invest in building more sustainable energy solutions. Every profit from SpaceX is a step closer to making life multiplanetary. And every breakthrough at Neuralink brings us closer to curing diseases that were once thought incurable." The room was silent, the weight of his words pressing down on everyone present. Even those who had entered the auditorium skeptical of Musk's motives couldn't help but acknowledge the logic of his argument. But Musk wasn't finished. "I think what you're really asking," he said, turning back to the journalist, "is whether I care about people. And the answer to that is simple. Yes, I do. That's why I'm here doing what I do. Because the problems I'm trying to solve, climate change, interplanetary survival, neurological disorders, aren't about me. They're about all of us. If I only cared about profits, I could have stopped after PayPal, retired at 30, bought that private island you're so concerned about." The audience chuckled softly at the remark, the tension easing just a little. Musk leaned back slightly, his expression contemplative. "But I didn't stop," he said, "because there's more to life than sitting on a pile of cash. There's a planet to save, a future to build. And I'd rather spend my life trying to solve problems than sitting on the sidelines criticizing the people who do." The applause began softly. A few claps scattered across the room, but it quickly grew louder, swelling into a wave of approval. Musk waited patiently, his hands resting on the table as the noise subsided. The journalist, meanwhile, looked visibly unsettled, their pen hovering over their notebook as if unsure what to write. "But let me ask you something," Musk said suddenly, his tone shifting as he leaned forward again. The journalist blinked, caught off guard by the sudden reversal. "How much do you care about people?" The question hit like a thunderclap, and the journalist froze, their polished composure momentarily shattered. The audience, sensing the shift in dynamics, leaned forward in their seats, eager to see how this unexpected turn would play out. "You sit here," Musk continued, his voice calm but pointed. criticizing me for caring about profits. But have you ever stopped to think about the impact of your own work? The stories you write? The narratives you push? Do they build people up, or do they tear them down? Do they inspire action, or do they just stir up outrage for clicks? The journalist opened their mouth to respond, but Musk pressed on, not giving them the chance. Because here's the thing, he said, his gaze locking onto theirs. It's easy to sit on the sidelines and point fingers. It's easy to criticize the people who are actually trying to do something. What's hard is taking responsibility. What's hard is putting your own skin in the game. The room was completely silent now, the audience hanging on Musk's every word. Even those who had been skeptical of him seemed captivated, their expressions a mix of admiration and awe. "And that's the difference between us," Musk said, his tone softening slightly. "I'm not here to win a popularity contest. I'm here to solve problems, big problems, problems that affect all of us. And if that means I have to make tough decisions or face tough questions, so be it. Because at the end of the day, it's not about me. It's about what we leave behind for the next generation." The applause this time was thunderous, the audience rising to their feet as they clapped and cheered. The journalist, clearly flustered, glanced down at their notebook, their pen still hovering as if searching for the right words. But there were none. Musk had taken the narrative and turned it on its head, leaving no room for rebuttal. As the applause began to die down, Musk leaned back in his chair, his expression calm but resolute. "So, to answer your question," he said, his voice cutting through the lingering noise, "I care about profits because I care about people, and if you don't understand that, then maybe you're asking the wrong questions." The audience erupted again, their cheers echoing through the auditorium as Musk's words lingered in the air. The journalist, visibly defeated, managed a tight smile, their confidence shattered. Musk, meanwhile, remained composed, his gaze steady as he looked out at the crowd. It was clear to everyone in the room, and to the millions watching online, that the balance of power had shifted entirely. Musk had not only answered the question but redefined the conversation, leaving everyone with a perspective they couldn't ignore. As the applause finally began to fade, the journalist took a deep breath, attempting to regain control of the conversation. They adjusted their microphone, their pen now resting motionless on the notebook in their lap. The air in the room felt charged, every attendee on edge, waiting to see if they could recover from the devastating blow Musk had just delivered. "Well, Mr. Musk," the journalist began, forcing a tight smile, "you've certainly made your position clear, but I have to ask, do you believe that the ends always justify the means? What about the controversies that have surrounded your companies? Workers at Tesla have reported grueling conditions, and environmentalists have raised concerns about the impact of SpaceX launches. How do you justify those costs in the name of progress?" The audience stilled, the tension rising again as the journalist made one last attempt to corner Musk. But Elon remained unfazed, his calm demeanor unbroken. He leaned forward slightly, his hands resting on the edge of the table as he spoke. "Look," he said, his voice steady, "I'm not going to stand here and pretend that everything I've done is perfect. It's not. We've made mistakes. I've made mistakes. But here's the difference. We learn from them. We improve. That's what innovation is. It's a process. It's messy, it's hard, and yes, sometimes it's controversial. But if you're afraid to take risks, if you're afraid to fail, you'll never achieve anything meaningful." He paused, his gaze sweeping the room. "Do you think putting a man on Mars is going to be easy? Do you think transitioning the entire world to sustainable energy is going to happen without challenges? Of course not. But those challenges don't mean we stop trying. If anything, they mean we need to try harder." The audience erupted into applause once again, their cheers echoing through the auditorium. The journalist opened their mouth to respond, but Musk wasn't finished. "As for the workers at Tesla," he continued, his tone softening, "let me say this. I'm incredibly proud of the people who work for my companies. They're some of the most talented, hardworking individuals I've ever met. And yes, the work is demanding, because the mission is demanding. But we're not building widgets here. We're building the future, and that's not something you can do by playing it safe. The crowd's reaction was instant and overwhelming, with many rising to their feet in a standing ovation. The journalist, now visibly flustered, glanced down at their notebook, flipping through the pages as if searching for a lifeline. "But let me ask you this," Musk said suddenly, his voice cutting through the noise like a blade. The journalist froze, their pen hovering in midair as they looked up at him. "What's the alternative? Do we stop? Do we say it's too hard, too risky, and give up? Because if that's the mindset, then we might as well pack it in right now. But that's not who we are. That's not who humanity is." His words hung in the air, a challenge not just to the journalist but to everyone in the room and beyond. The audience sat in stunned silence, their expressions a mix of awe and reflection. Even those who had been critical of Musk seemed moved by the conviction in his voice. "I'll tell you what I care about," Musk continued, his tone growing more impassioned. "I care about giving the next generation a planet they can live on. I care about ensuring that humanity has a future, whether it's on Earth or somewhere else. I care about curing diseases, solving problems, and pushing the boundaries of what's possible. And if that makes me controversial, then so be it. I'd rather be controversial than complacent." The applause was deafening this time, the audience rising to their feet once again as they cheered. Musk waited patiently, his hands resting on the table, as the noise gradually subsided. The journalist, meanwhile, looked completely defeated, their earlier confidence shattered. The moderator, sensing the shift in dynamics, stepped in to wrap up the session. "Ladies and gentlemen," they said, their voice cutting through the lingering applause, "let's give a big round of applause to Elon Musk for sharing his insights with us tonight." The audience clapped once more, their cheers echoing through the auditorium as Musk nodded politely, his expression calm and composed. The journalist offered a half-hearted smile, their pen now lying forgotten on the table. The exchange quickly became the talk of the tech summit, with attendees buzzing about Musk's responses long after the session had ended. Within hours, clips of the confrontation began flooding social media, the hashtag #MuskDestroysJournalist trending worldwide. Tweets and posts ranged from admiration for Musk's composure to criticism of the journalist's tactics. "Elon Musk just gave a masterclass in handling tough questions," one tweet read. "This is why he's the GOAT." Another user wrote, "The journalist tried to corner Musk, but he turned it into a TED Talk. Absolute legend." News outlets picked up the story the next morning, with headlines like "Elon Musk silences critics at Tech Summit" and "Journalist's attempt to corner Musk backfires spectacularly." Talk shows, podcasts, and online forums buzzed with debates over the exchange, with some praising Musk for his vision and others questioning whether the journalist had been too aggressive. For Musk, however, the fallout was business as usual. He returned to his work with the same unshakable focus that had defined his career, unfazed by the media storm. When asked about the summit during a press conference a week later, he simply shrugged and said, "It was an interesting conversation. I hope it inspired people to think bigger." The confrontation at the Tech Summit wasn't just about Musk or the journalist. It was about the clash of ideas, the tension between innovation and accountability. Musk's ability to remain composed, to turn a pointed question into an opportunity to inspire, was a testament to his resilience and vision. His words reminded everyone in that room, and the millions watching online, that progress isn't about avoiding controversy. It's about embracing challenges and pushing forward despite them. In a world increasingly divided by skepticism and doubt, Musk's response served as a powerful reminder of what's possible when we focus not on tearing each other down, but on building something better. And for those who watched the exchange, the lesson was clear. Sometimes the best way to silence your critics is to let your work and your words speak for themselves. If you're as moved as we are by this story, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel.